If there are nights when cooking feels like too much, not just inconvenient, but honestly impossible, this episode is for you. Today we're talking about why your freezer might be the most supportive system in your kitchen. Let's get started. Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time. Okay, so this is the last episode in our pantry series that we've had for the month of February. This episode is going to cover something that I feel like matters more than we often are willing to admit, and that is what happens on the days when you just can't cook. It is not, I don't feel like cooking, or I'm tired, but I could push through. It is those days whenever you say, I don't have it in me, my body is done. If I have to think about food, I am going to cry. Those days need a plan too, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So this month, we have been building on simple ways to eat healthy meals at home that feel easy, especially when life gets crazy, when the kids aren't sleeping, or when you have a flare-up of symptoms. Now, we don't accomplish this by just doing more. We accomplish it by thinking ahead and making a plan so that you don't have to start from scratch when the daily what's for dinner question comes up. We've talked about pantry basics. We have built default meals. We've adjusted for seasonal shifts. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to say this. Everything we're talking about today, everything we've talked about this month is about planning for the hard days, not pretending that they won't happen or just letting them happen and basically just letting whatever happens happen. This is the same approach that I use with clients inside the one-on-one chronic health coaching. It's to help them to build healthy habits that can work even on the days when your energy is low, even when you don't feel well, even when you have flare-ups, even when your kids aren't sleeping, all of those things. So if you ever want support with that, you can find details at ashleybraden.com/coaching, and I'll have the link down in the show notes below. So for a long time, I thought the goal was to avoid those days where I did not feel like cooking. I thought if I planned well enough, if I stayed ahead enough of things, if I tried harder, then eventually everything would be okay. Like I would just get to that point where I would never have those days where cooking was just impossible. But I realized something important. Those days are just part of real life, especially when you're managing chronic symptoms, when you are stressed, when you're running everywhere with the kids, when you're burnt out. The problem wasn't that I had hard days. I think everyone, no matter your life situation, no matter what's going on, we all have hard days. We all have days where we just can't cook or we just don't want to cook. So the problem for me was that I hadn't made a plan for them. I hadn't made a plan for those hard days. And without a plan, often what ends up happening, we end up going in through the drive-thru or eating random snacks or skipping meals or eating something that leaves us feeling worse. And this is something that even as I'm looking over the last month of myself, it's been the last month has been really, really crazy and busy. And I can see that I've kind of gotten out of this routine of having that, of being consistent with what is the plan. And it helps me to really remember the value of having this plan, of having the stuff ready to go. Because whenever I do fall in these seasons where, oh my goodness, I let life happen and I let some of this stuff slide, I suddenly realized this is why I did it in the first place. And it's one of those things, my husband and I are trying to eat healthier. And I even told him today, actually, okay, if we want to have these healthy meals ready to go, we just need to sit down and make a plan. I will go do our monthly grocery shopping and we will have all of this stuff ready to go, because we were kind of in this transition phase of like, well, we're trying to kind of eat healthier than we were, but I didn't really know exactly what my husband wanted to eat. And so we were just kind of going with the flow. And what I've realized is it just does not work. It does not work. We have to have a plan. We have to have it planned ahead of time. I need to have everything ready to go, and we need to have default meal options that work for any kind of dietary changes that are happening in our house right now. And I just want to hear from you. Does that sound familiar? Do you have different things? Like someone wants to start eating different, and now it's like this overwhelm of what do I do now? Like my default meals now need to shift. And it takes a lot of mental effort to sit down and do that, especially when you're also coordinating with someone else who wants to eat a certain way. So how do we handle these situations? And that's why I really wanted to focus on this pantry series this month, because in real time, I am currently just being reminded of why these principles are so important. So the core idea for today is healthy eating is easier when your freezer holds options for the days when you just can't cook. Think of your freezer as a support system for your goal of eating healthy and eating at home. So it exists for those days when you have a flare, when it's just emotionally heavy day, you're emotionally exhausted, you're physically exhausted. Maybe you're busy and you just haven't had time at all to think about food. You didn't make a plan beforehand. We all have those days. It's just a reality of life. And you just need to get something quick on the table. It can be for weeks whenever it's high stress, you've got a lot going on, you don't have the mental capacity to plan out food. Or it could be days when you don't sleep much the night before and you just cannot imagine standing in the kitchen and cooking. Your freezer is there to work for you. It helps to make eating at home possible, even whenever life is crazy. So, freezer stuff can kind of get a bad reputation. And there could be a couple of different reasons. It could be like, oh, well, that's just all got to be processed, unhealthy foods. It could be like, well, we're just giving up. It could be, well, that just tastes bad. Or this is like a last resort type of thing. But the problem with all this stuff is it's not the freezer that's the problem. It's what are we putting in it? What is the plan that we have? What are the foods we are relying on? That's what we need to plan out intentionally in order to make our freezer work for us in our real life and also coincide with our health goals. So, what your freezer should actually do for you is reduce last-minute decisions. It can also remove the pressure on hard nights when you just don't have it in you to cook and give you something to reach for without having to put a lot of thought into it. It can answer the question for you, what can I eat whenever I can't cook? What can I eat whenever I'm in a time crunch? All of those things. Before you even have to ask it, you know, okay, I have some really quick options ready to go. So I want to give you a very simple framework for your freezer. It's called the 3-2-1 freezer plan. And this is what I want you guys to focus on. This is something I am really going to go back and inventory my freezer and refocus on as we are shifting our diet in our home a little bit more. And so 3 is going to be 3 quick proteins. These are things that you can pull out and build around very quickly. Now, keep in mind, very quickly, we're not wanting frozen meat that has to be thawed and then cooked. That is not what we are looking for when we're looking at freezer, like the 3-2-1 freezer plan that's for these last minute, I can't cook kind of meals. I'm thinking things like pre-cooked meat, frozen meat that is pre-portioned for certain sizes, anything that you can heat without much effort, and then focus on 3 of those. These are going to help you to throw something together really quickly from scratch. So for instance, what I will do, I will get like a big thing of ground beef and I will brown up a very large portion of it, remove it, like drain off any of the fat, and then I measure it out and I freeze it so that if we need a quick meal, there is ground beef already ready to go. I can just throw it in a pot, in a pan, whatever, and it will defrost very quickly as I'm cooking the meal. So it gives me a very fast option. You could also do that with chicken. You could shred up chicken and then go ahead and freeze that and throw it into soups or things like that. Another option to do would be, I will do this with beef. For instance, like if we make a roast and we didn't eat all of the leftovers. I've had this happen before where we didn't eat all of the leftovers and it was getting kind of to the point where, okay, I need to do something with this so it doesn't get thrown in the trash. I will just put it in like these portion size that I would eat for a meal. I will put it in those containers in the freezer. And then if it's like I need to eat lunch, but I don't have a lot of time and I know I need protein, I can pull one of those out and have that ready to go. Those are the kind of things I'm thinking of. We're not relying on convenience foods, on highly processed foods. We're still using real whole foods. We're just having them already cooked. Like we're doing that work ahead of time when we do have the energy so that when we don't, we can pull that out as a quick option. Okay, 2 is going to be 2 kid-friendly emergency meals. If you have kids, you know you need options in there that are quick. that they will eat on the nights when you don't feel like cooking. So these are meals that you know your kids will eat. They aren't going to require negotiating or them complaining that they don't like it. And it's not going to drain your energy. They're not going to be everyday meals. This is not what you're feeding them every single day. These are backup meals, like I said, for emergencies. And having them ready can prevent a lot of stress and honestly that struggle back and forth with your kids about eating on those hard nights. Okay, and then one is going to be one comfort meal. This is going to matter more than you think, especially for those days when you are struggling. And maybe you just don't want to pull out the chicken and have some kind of healthy soup. You want that warm, hearty comfort meal food. So this is going to be something that feels familiar. It's something that everyone likes. And honestly, it kind of feels like a deep exhale whenever you smell it cooking and you eat it. When you are overwhelmed, when you're stressed, when you are exhausted, comfort matters. And having that option that is already available makes it easier to stay at home instead of defaulting to go somewhere else. Okay, so choosing a freezer meal on a hard day is not giving up. It is not failing. It is using a system that you thoughtfully put in place so that you could think clearly, so you could provide your family with food that you feel good about. So what I want you to focus on this week would be creating your own 3-2-1 freezer meal plan. So remember, 3 quick proteins, 2 kid-friendly emergency meals, and 1 comfort meal. And of course, you don't have to do this all at once, but sitting down and creating that plan and having those ideas and then shopping for the stuff as you are able is a great way to slowly ease into this. Start with 1 meal if you need to, and if that's all you can handle, that is perfectly fine. Okay, so let's kind of look back for a moment and all the things we talked about this month. We talked about keeping the right pantry basics on hand, choosing those default meals instead of planning out every single meal every single night. Then we talked about realigning the food with the season you are in, and also that's going to give you some additional variety in your meals. And now we're talking about using the freezer to plan for the days when you just can't cook. Together, all of these form a system that works with your capacity, with your schedule, with your real life. Just remember, you do not need perfect meals. You don't need endless motivation. You need food systems that hold together on the days when thinking feels hard, when life hits, when you are momming, and that is all you have. That's all you have the capacity to give right now is like, I am here for my kids, and that is all I can do today. So we need those systems in place to support us during those hard seasons. I hope this series has been helpful for you. If it has, I would love to hear from you. Come join us over in our free Facebook community, or you can email me, reach out to me on social media. I will have all of that linked down in the show notes below. That is all for this episode, and I'll see you back next time. Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.